take this off. Welcome to another live with your girl, Shakti J. Today we are going to be talking about why there's a stain on my shirts. That's what happens when you use a bunch of oil and you don't want to put chemicals on your body. Okay, so today for our listeners on Apple and Spotify podcast, today we are going to be talking about something very exciting if you are a man, and possibly if you are a woman too and you enjoy sexual relations with men, well then you will enjoy this too in the long run. So today we're going to be talking about this whole phenomenon of no fapping versus semen retention versus edging versus tantric retention. And there are just, which we refer to as brahmacharya. So that's what we're going to be getting into today. I know it's a huge topic. There's a lot to unpack. Might have to do like a part 2 to this. But today, that's what we're going to be talking about. Please, if you are new and somehow YouTube has put me in the algorithms and you're seeing this, subscribe and like this, leave a comment, turn on your notifications because I've got great, amazing content coming for you, boo. But if you don't have it turned on, most likely you're not going to see it. That's just how it goes when you do this work. Okay, so yeah, make sure all that stuff's turned on. And if you stay to the end, I'm going to give you a super delicious, luscious tip, tantric tip on how to last longer. You know you want it, you know you need it. We know that the percentages of men that are having challenges with ED are through the roof more than ever before. I believe it's 1 in every 9. Men, and yeah, so some shocking statistics, but we're gonna dive right in. I actually was gonna look this up for 1 second because this is really important to know. But there's been so many misconceptions about no fapping, edging, tantra or semen retention, and what is like tantric retention, which is, in our words, we call that brahmacharya. So it's a very long fancy word, and I looked it up and I know this, I've got it now. 30 million men in the United States are suffering from ED. 30 million. So that's a pretty shocking, alarming number. This is just the US, so it's not world statistics. And then another statistics found that around 52% of men experience some form of ED. Now, I'd heard this before, and it increases from 5 to 15% between ages 40 and 70. But I know personally in my personal practice, working with men and women who are wanting to solve intimacy, relationship, and sex challenges, that age is getting younger and younger. I have men who are barely legal, 21, coming in and asking for help with ED, which is shocking because we've never seen that. So why is that? So we're going to get into the why, but first, and that might have to be episode 2, but I want to just talk, maybe this is probably gonna be like a 10-part series, honestly. So I want to talk about the misconceptions of no fap, tantric edging, or I'm sorry, semen retention, no fap, edging, and then tantric retention, which is called brahmacharya. So there's a whole different purpose for each one. And I think as men, and if women are watching this, I'm very shocked, but for men in your life, if you don't have purpose, you feel lost, right? So anything you do there has to be a reason why. There has to be an outcome. If you're an entrepreneur, you just don't get into business because it's just a fun thing to do. No, unless you've already made millions and now you're like, okay, how do I make more? Because this is fun and it challenged me and it made me the man I am today. It wasn't even about making the money, which a lot of you think that that's what it is, but it's about the man you become while you're making the money. So it's no difference with anything you do. Pardon me. Just taking some water for y'all at home listening on Apple and Spotify. It's about the journey of the man you became along the way to making the millions or creating the business. So, sorry, y'all. And I do want to apologize for not being on last week. It was Mother's Day. And then personally, if you guys follow my Instagram and stuff, you saw I've been having some allergic reactions. I've been to the ER twice in the last month. I'm allergic to something and we're trying to figure out what it is. So I'm gonna get this one out. There should be 2 this week and there wasn't. So I will figure out how to make it up to you guys, whether I like post another one next week. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Anyway, so back to no fapping, edging, semen retention and tantric retention. They're totally different. So we're going to talk about the why. And I think the why is the most compelling difference in a lot of these practices. Not just the why, but that's a huge component in it. All right, so everyone knows no fapping. Now, the no fapping became like a trend with a bunch of, and I have some notes here, guys, that I want to share so that I can stay focused, because I tend to be highly feminine and I get off on tangents, and I want to respect your time, and I also want people to watch this, so I want them to get the really good tidbits and not a lot of the fluff. And so that's why I keep my phone with my notes so I can stay organized. So I'm not texting, I promise. All right, so again, if you haven't done it, like the video right now, make sure you're subscribed, turn on your notifications, find all my socials. If you want to do this work with me one-on-one, there's so many ways to do it, and just click the link and there's everything. My website, how to get involved, how to ask me questions where I respond to you in a live voice note. It's all there. All right, guys, so what does no fapping mean? That was what I was curious, because I know this movement took off simply because I've done some collaborative work with some pretty big male fitness influencers, and I think they've kind of moved into like the personal development world, you know, FitX Fearless, Austin Dunham, who else have I worked with? Mike Rashid, who's really big in this world. And yeah, and so I know that there was a lot of people who really got into this, and the no fapping thing kind of took off, right? And everyone thought, oh, yeah, no fapping means like I just don't masturbate, and that's going to solve my problems, and it's going to help me not be addicted to corn or whatever they're calling it these days. All right. So the no fap, that really means that this organization was one that challenged users to abstain from pornography, masturbation, or sex altogether. Oh, I hope I can say that. Whoops. To reboot their brain and to heal their so-called corn addiction associated with sexual dysfunction. Remember, I told you the 30 million men who experience ED in America. All right. So it's supposed to have all these numerous benefits, including improved relationships and in fulfillment. So we're going to tackle no fap first. Then we move into edging. Then we move into tantric retention. And lastly, we'll cover or semen retention. Lastly, tantric retention, aka brahmacharya. But don't try to pronounce that word because it might not work. So no fapping, that's what the goal was. All right. We have all these men, 30 million men, who can't get it up or are having fun, you know, they can't last long enough. ED, some kind of problems. ED encompasses a lot of things, including PE, which is premature eject. So you know all those things, right? So the no fapping rule was kind of like there to supposedly, I need some more support, guys, to supposedly help with all those things that I mentioned, the sexual dysfunction and not being addicted to corn anymore. And so that's what, okay, yeah, I'll get to that at the end because it's totally off topic. I do read the comments, absolutely. If they're appropriate comments. I was supposed to block someone, but I even was too not interested in blocking him. Of course, he was from Destiny's team, which is fine. So at any rate, back to no fapping. So the no fapping, the movement went out, all these influencers went out there and told you guys why to do it and what you should do, and it's going to help you not be addicted to corn anymore, and it's going to, you know, help your sex life and all these things. Okay, and so no fapping meant, you know, no masturbation, no sexual activity, no nothing, like you just abstained. And then there was a calendar that showed you how to do it, like 10 days or 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever. Okay. And then, and so these influencers would put people on these plans, and this was like the new thing, right? Oh, you know, fap. And it's like, this is really not a new thing. It was just like, everything is already done, but it was like kind of created to get to be trending and for men to jump on it and really think that it worked. Now, I have two problems with no fapping, actually more, but we'll just say two today. The issue with no fapping and why I don't think it works is because anytime, this is one of my favorite sayings, whatever you resist persists. Let me say that again. You got, it's like tongue twisters. Whatever you resist persists. Whatever you can't be with won't let you be. Meaning whatever you put resistance against, so saying I'm not going to do this XYZ, masturbation, sexual stuff, I'm not doing it. That's a resistance. And I know you guys, most of you probably aren't into all the energetic stuff. But for those of you who are, it's an energetic frequency of no. So even if you guys do work with manifestations and things like that, or scripting in the future, it's always present or future tense. So anytime you're saying negative no, that's already an energetic, like, saying no. But take away the energy stuff, because a lot of people don't resonate with that right away. It's like you're saying I can't do something. We'll relate it to something else, relate it to something else that is probably makes more sense to you. Dieting. Anytime, like the first 3 words of dieting is die, right? So anytime you say I'm not going to have that, what happens? You want it like more. It's like you're like, okay, I said I was going to give up, for instance, coffee, because most guys aren't really into sweets like that. But coffee, I mean, coffee is an addiction, or Red Bull drinks, or you know, even if it's a more addictive thing like smoking, and you say I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to just not do it for 30, 60, 90 days. How many people can really quit? That's a good one. Smoking. If they just say I'm not going to do it and make a calendar, and then they come back and, like, first of all, it doesn't work. Most people cannot stop smoking without help, without getting some kind of intervention, some kind of like the patch, or they go to a clinic, and same thing with alcohol. You can't just stop doing it because you say you're going to do it. Now, if you're working with like an NLP coach and they help you to reframe your mind, and they take away and they understand what the need is, what the crave is, and then they break that association and create a new neural association pattern, like a new kind of empowered belief on why quitting isn't more painful than staying in it. Because you have to understand, again, we're going back to outcome. No fapping. Okay, so people associate pleasure with corn, right? You don't go and say, oh, damn, I have to get on and watch corn tonight. No, you don't say that. You're like, I can't wait to get a moment, a break at work, a time at home, a time when my girl's not here, my wife's gone, the kids are gone, so I can scroll and get on all these sites that you get on to watch corn. It's a positive thing to you guys in your brain. So your brain, narrative brain association patterns have told you that this is pleasure. Corn equals pleasure. So then now all of a sudden you're thrown in with this no fapping that says, corn is bad. Don't do it for 30, 60, 90 days. First of all, most men can't do that. And second of all, like I said, whatever you resist persists. If you do go 30, 60, 90 days, which I commend the guys who do it, but I know for a fact, and I'll tell you why, that most men can't do this. They cannot quit cold turkey. They can't do it. What happens afterwards, it's almost like it doesn't kill the desire, especially not that short of time, 30, 60, 90 days. It almost makes it more intense. So then when you get off the 30, 60, 90 days, yeah, maybe for some people it works, and they're like, okay, yeah, I didn't fap, so I'm good. I can just indulge in corn a little bit, or I won't be addicted to masturbating. But for most men, that's not what happens. They come back, and then it's like, they've been denied it. So imagine you couldn't smoke for a day. Then you come back and it's like, I've seen it. People are like, they're just like, oh my God, like I need more. Or I couldn't drink. I gave up drinking for a week, and then they come back and they go into like a comatose, right? They drink themselves into oblivion. It's the same thing with no fapping, guys. It's all the brain and how it works, and the relationship of your brain from pleasure, from corn equaling pleasure, not pain. It's a synapse in your brain that wires together. Whatever wires together, fires together. Yes, corn is pleasure. Corn is pleasure. So you think that. In order to cure that, it's more than just a challenge. That does not, I am going to say that does not work. Has it worked for some? Sure. Everyone's different. There's always outliers, but that is not the way to overcome your addiction to corn, or to learn how to master your sexual energy, which is what a lot of men cannot do. I know a lot of people in the world talk about, no, I'll get to that later. I'm going to stay on point. So no fapping. That is the problem I have with it, is that it just takes it away from you, and then it's supposed to fix you, right? And so I think that we know for a fact that doesn't work, okay? So what happens after, that is my point. What happens after the 30, 60, 90 days? How do you come back? How do you know that just because you decided not to masturbate, or not to watch porn, or not to engage in sex with your girlfriend or people you pay for 30, 60, 90 days, that you're better after that time, that you come back and everything's cured? No, that doesn't do it. What it does is it suppresses the desire for a little bit, but the desire is still there. It's not about not masturbating or not having sex. It is about not watching porn, but that's a whole nother thing. It's about, do you have the mastery over your sexual desires and sexual energy? Do you have that mastery? The mastery is where the magic is, not in the abstinence. Because listen, guys, most people were raised faith-based. Oh my gosh, my brain works faster than I can speak. That's what it's like to really be in my brain, guys. It's a scary place. Most people today, at least in the US, were raised faith-based. And if you were like me, raised faith-based, that meant that when we were in youth group, we signed a petition saying, I remember, I'll never forget that day in my life. We put it on these little index cards and said, I was not going to have sex before marriage. We know that is like almost obsolete. Virgins don't even exist anymore. And if they do exist, they're in very extreme religious circumstances. And a lot of times those people are extremely weird. It's like they've held in desire so much, and they've, because there's so much shame attached to it, that it like changes the core of who they are. So again, we know that it's not about abstaining, it's about mastery. Sorry, every time I put my water down, it shakes it. All right, so mastering the sexual energy, not abstaining. Okay, so that's no fapping, because that desire is still there. If you have, and I'll end with this and we'll move on to edging. If you have, the best way I know how to explain it, it's a very more feminine analogy, but let's see if you guys, if something else comes to me, I'll think of it. I'll say it in the moment. But those pressure cookers, they're old school. Maybe you have grandmas or moms that use them. You put the lid on it, and it would like, it like, you seal it. Oh, now everyone's using them today to cook their lentils and grains, so it takes out the lectins, right? They're pressure cookers. So they used to have some on the stove, even the ones that you plug in. It's the same concept. It takes everything, and the way that it cooks, it's so intense, it's so fast, and it's so like at such a high boiling state, if you will, that it sucks the lectins out. It makes it safe for you to eat, safer for you to eat that food without it upsetting your tummy, your digestive system, right? So that's why people are using them. In the old days, pressure cookers, everyone had one. They'd use them for, a plethora of different cooking methods. But the one thing that you would notice is if you did loose and take it off the stove in time, that pressure will just build up, build, and then it just overflows onto the stove. And then you get not just water, but you get whatever you're cooking, the rice, the pasta. It's this glutinous like essence everywhere, right? Because it's the steam is just building and building, and then the pressure just it goes over. So that's what's happening with your sexual energy. So even if you're no fapping for 30, 60, 90 days, that pressure is just building and building, because you've like put the lid on. You've said no fapping, no masturbation, no sexual activity, no touching, no core, no nothing, no. And then everywhere. And it's just like, that's what happens. And then it becomes like, I never want to have that feeling again. And so it's like, how do I meet that need again? Because you haven't really addressed like what the issue, what the initial issues, like what is the need, what is the unmet need, and how is that need being fulfilled at any cost. And then, no fapping's like work out, eat right, no, there's so much more that's involved in curing an addiction, because that's what it is. It's an addiction, okay? So that's no fapping. So next we get into edging. And I looked at very generic definitions, because I didn't want this to come from like the tantric approach. I wanted this just to be solely me seeing what is out there, so you guys understand how you've kind of been tricked a little bit, and how it's a little confusing, right? So edging involves sexual stimulation to the point just before climax, before slowing down again. It's generally a safe practice and unlikely to have any detrimental health effects. Most of the stuff I got off Healthline and sites of that nature. So like medical sites, right? Which is what I was looking for. All right. And it says, so why? In anything you do, if you work with me, if you come to my retreats, and if you're my client, I'm asking you, what's your why? Why do you want to come see me? What do you want to accomplish? What is the challenge you're facing? What is the curiosity or desire? Because if you don't know your outcome, I can't help you get there. And you're just wasting time, energy, and money. And so, let me see. Okay. Hello, beautiful. Let me just read some of these comments and then we'll go into, edging. All right, guys, I want to false opposition. Okay. The Enrique, I'll get to yours at the end. False opposition. Okay, I'm not sure what you're referring to. There was a message held for review. I haven't been able to get with a girl for the past 42 years and mostly cracked something with corn. What works best to change? Illuminati Mafia, you're going to need to contact me for this. This is going to, so click the link. There's ways that you can reach out and I can help solve this. This is not something I can answer on a live, and this is very intimate. And this is something that, you know, if you want to do one-on-one with me, great. If that's not in your budget, for $20 a month, I answer every question with a voice note. So you know it's me. It's not a, you know, like someone managing it. So that's the best way. And I can help you with that. Ransom McKissick. Hello, beautiful. Thank you. Hello, dear. Maggie, Michael, 19, smart and gorgeous. For you guys at home on Spotify and Apple, I'm reading comments. Moon, pilled, rational optics. Neither of these are healthy option or lifestyle. Thank you for your opinion. Dark Lake, give you emoji. Kendall Richardson emoji. Edging causes blue balls, doesn't it? We're getting into edging next. So thank you so much. Yes, I do read comments. If you want to tip me or something, I think that's an option. I'm trying to get comfortable, guys. having some issues here today, but I'll make it work. This couch looks great, but it's not that comfortable. It's more just to sit in someone's house and look pretty. Okay, so we're moving on. So we did no fapping. We're moving on to edging. Okay, so here we go. Some people choose to practice this technique as a way to extend the duration of sexual activity, to increase the intensity, or explore a different sexual activity. Okay, so edging, I'm going to explain it to you. It's pretty self-explanatory, but since we are going into depth about the differences in all of these modalities, if you will, I'm going to explain to you. So edging is simply where you are engaging. It could be solo self-pleasure, or it could be two persons if you're lucky enough to have a partner, a girlfriend, a wife, or someone who's willing to get under you. You can engage with her too. So edging is where you go engage in sexual activity. We'll just say masturbation, because we know most men are not having a partner these days, sadly. So you're in masturbation. You go to the point to where you feel you're about to climax, and then you stop, and then you bring the energy down, or you bring the practice down, meaning you don't engage in anymore. So you stop, you don't touch yourself, you just stop. And in the tantric world, you'll be breathing, and then you go again. And then you build up again. So you build up and you do the practices, the strokes, everything that you would. And then the energy starts to build up again. Remember the pressure cooker? It's going. And you let it go up. And before that pulsation starts, that happens in the moment of climax or ejac, the energy starts going up, and then you stop again. And you rinse and repeat. And so you do this. It's a secular practice. And many people do it, like we said, to just experience longer durations of pleasure, because we know the average man is lasting 5 to 7 minutes. 5 to 7 minutes. Yes, you heard me correctly. The average man, yes, I'm sure you are not average, because most people will say, I don't have any problems with that. I go all night, but the numbers just don't lie. And we can pull women from anywhere. In fact, I might do that. I might go out in the field and just pull women and say, do you remember your last sexual encounter? How long did it last? And they're going to say, it was over before it started. I promise. So edging, that's simply what you do. You go up and then you come down, and you go up and you come down. And that process just keeps going and going until you feel like I'm ready to finally, I want to release, I want to experience climax. And then that energy builds and it's a little more intense and it feels a little bit more like, pardon me, it feels more satisfying, more satiating to have that kind of climax than just a regular climax. Now, a lot of people think, oh yeah, edging is semen retention, which it brings me into that. So edging is like, okay, I can last longer, I can experience more pleasure, and then eventually I'm going to have that climax, I'm going to experience a jack, and it's going to be more intense. So that's the reason why people do it. They're wanting to create a more intense sexual experience in their bodies. And if they're lucky enough to have someone to participate in the sexual activity with them, then it's typically more pleasurable for the woman because she has a chance to actually reach climax, which we know most women are not reaching climax today. So men are getting there too quickly and women are not getting there at all, sadly, right? So that's the edging principles and the why in that. And now we're moving, the edging one is pretty self-explanatory. It's not really said, oh, it's going to solve anything. It's just another alternative that men are using so that they can like experience a little more pleasure and prolong their pleasure. And if they're lucky enough to be with a woman, that they're able to like pull her into the pleasure, because most times men are having their own pleasure and then they're rolling over and going to sleep. So all right, so now we're going to move into the last two, and I said again, if you hang in there with me, I'm going to give you a really luscious tantric pleasure tip to last longer. All right, and everyone wants these. Okay, so now we're moving into the infamous semen retention. If you've been following my Instagram or my work on YouTube, I did a whole segment of these like 2 years ago, and they went off crazy because I just gave everyone a semen retention tip, and I think I did 10 of them. And yeah, so it was super helpful. So I'm going to give you some of the benefits of semen retention. So a lot of people are choosing to practice semen retention for the mental, the physical. Of course, we know the spiritual benefits is what is alluring to very few, but there are a few number of men who find this work rewarding for them. So people are saying, as we know, that semen retention, it improves fertility, sexual pleasure, physical health, energy. There's a myriad of things that it's believed to help. A lot of people believe that the sperm retention helps redirect the sexual energy into other areas of life. So like improves mental health, spiritual aspirations, growth, financial, intimacy in your relationships, everything. Like this affects every area of life. And then for many men, it's the ultimate journey of self-control or self-mastery, as I like to call it. Some other names for semen retention. This is something actually I hadn't heard of some of these. And one of them was seminal conservation. It kind of sounds like seminal conservation, like possibly like a movie or a book series or something, right? Sexual continence, which I had heard of that one. And the other one was coitus reservatus. Coitus, that's C-O-I-T-U-S, reservatus. That one I had not heard. So very interesting names for semen retention. And then semen retention is rooted in practices that come from tantric sex, Taoism, sexual transmutation, Maituna. Those are all tantric practices and tantric rituals. Charizia, and then another Asian practice that I can't pronounce. So semen retention is a derivative of many of these Asian, I keep moving my hair to cover that oil stain, guys. It's very annoying. It's a derivative of a lot of these Asian practices like Taoism. And so as you know, the tantrics pull from different paths of Eastern philosophy and religions. So as a tantric myself, I was trained in Taoist Tantra, Buddhist Tantric, classical Indian tantric, and Tibetan tantra. So Taoist, Tibet, Indian, and Taoism. So all of those areas I was trained in. And so we pull from these practices are all kind of pulled from those different areas and regions. All right. So here we go. I'm going to give you the kind of the reasons why, right? More confidence and self-control, less anxiety and depression, increased motivations, better memory, concentration, overall cognitive function. Who doesn't want more of that? Now we know when you're retaining semen, you're having greater sense of vitality, more energy, more vital energy. You feel more. This is the main thing my clients tell me, and some of my colleagues and some of my past tantric partners would tell me they just felt like, tell me if this is true, if you practice semen retention and you can speak on it, they just felt more clear. Like if the world before was like a little bit hazy and smoggy, like everything was just like crystal freaking clear. Like they got up and things, I've even had men tell me like things tasted better. Their sight was better. Their smell was more intense. Like their senses were just alive. And if you come to my retreats, we have one in Morocco in September, I fixate on the senses because Tantra is a sensory experience. And so when men tell me, oh yeah, my senses were more astute, I felt more clear, I had more vital energy, I had thicker hair, my voice got deeper, my testosterone raised, I had an improved sperm quality. These are all things that your average man is like, sign me up for, please. And then the spiritual stuff, which most people don't care about, but I am going to touch on because that's my practice, and a few men out there might be on that path. Deeper relationships, more connected intimacy, a stronger vital life force, and overall more happiness and peace, and just more connected to your purpose, which is your calling in this life if you are a man. So what is semen retention? So now I kind of gave you the outcomes and the why, the what is it and the why, the benefits, but now I'm going to give you explain to you how it works. So the how, forgive me for a moment. So I told you the what, the outcome, the benefits, and now I'm going to explain to you briefly the how. So the how is essentially where with edging, you might be solo masturbating or having sex with a partner. And so you get to the point where you are almost going to climax. And in Tantra, we say that region is in this 50 to 70% range. Like you don't want to go to the 100 or 90, because if you go to the 90, the chances of you spilling over are going to be high to high, right? So we stay in that kind of 50, 70% range, and then we just escalate from, we de-escalate from there because we don't want to lose it, right? So that's what edging is. You go up, then you come down, then you go up and coming down. Now, the difference in semen retention is that we are fixated on not just getting to that point and then coming down. We're doing that for a long time, but eventually we're learning to, everyone listen in close, get in close, separate the climax or the O from the ejaculatory phase. Like those are two different things. So I'm going to say it again. In semen retention, we are retaining the semen while still experiencing the climax or the orgasmic potential, if you will. So they're two separate things. Now, if you want to learn more about that, you have to click the Patreon. I have hours and hours and hours of lectures at my retreats. And if you don't have a passport, you can't take time off work, you don't have kids, or you have kids and wives and all this, you can't get out of town, and you can't fly to an exotic country and spend 5 days with me and learn these teachings and with other people, then you can go to Patreon and you can hear, I go into the deepest, most intense aspects of this. But so basically what's happening is there's a separation that you've been trained wrong. Your whole life you were lied to in so many different ways, but you've always considered your your climax to be the same as your ejaculation. And those two are totally separate. They happen in two different spaces in the body. They occur in two different places, and they're two separate entities that the experience has been like rolled into one, and now you think that's normalcy, but it is in fact not the case. So I'm going to check and see if I have any more comments. Okay, so yes, I have some comments. So guys, on Spotify and Apple, I am reading a few comments, and we'll get back to on track in just a moment. Okay, so yes, edging can, yes. So to get to your question, edging can cause blue balls. Yes, it can, because you're not releasing the energy. You're not doing anything with it. And that's where the tantric practice is different. I had an older woman, Cliff says, she used to edge me orally and it caused blue balls. Were we doing it right? So no, because I had to like think about that question for a moment, because you weren't doing it right in the sense that there's always an energetic exchange that's happening when you're engaging in this. So if you are just getting that experience of going to the point and then coming back and going to the point and coming back, and in the end you're left like not satiated and dissatisfied and in pain, you're not releasing and channeling that energy. So Tantra is about perception, control, channeling, and I like to say conserving the sexual energy. How to become a master of your sexual energy. That's really what I teach for what men and women. Today we're talking about men. So no, you guys weren't doing it correctly simply because you weren't moving the energy. That part takes skills. That's why people come and retreat with me and train with me. But you guys were doing what you knew. Let me see. Let's see. Okay, Kendall Richards, great advice. Agreed, it feels way more satisfying when I finally do release. Yes, that's the idea. Yes, absolutely. You're so right about being lied to about masturbation and advice about it. Yes, thank you guys so much. And the best way that you guys can help me is to just like this, and once the video goes live, share it with as many people as you can. Of course, we're going to cut it up into clips and do all that fun stuff as well, but your support helps me to get this message out there more, because you know YouTube doesn't really like this information getting out, and I'm giving it to you guys for free on YouTube. My channel is not monetized, so that's just a little bit of a B-side. All right, back to the last category, and then we're going to take questions or comments, and then we're going to close. All right. We're going to give you your tip. So stay tuned for the tip. Okay. So this is just a very, very interesting concept. When you tell a man that his climax is not connected to his ejaculation, it's very confusing. And you should be confused, and you should be shocked, and you should feel a little bit sad, because this is just a whole different experience, and most men will go their entire life just having sex the same boring way and not ever experiencing the possibilities that are available to them. And so this is why I do this work, because I want men to really be the master of their sexual energy, and not just, I wish that I had the reach that these influencers had, because they're getting so famous, and most of the time I think the stuff they tell you is correct, but in this line of work there's very few people, and some of the people that are telling it correctly are like my masters and my teachers, but there's very few people on social media that are giving you the correct knowledge and details, and so a lot of men are just led astray, because men without being connected to like their highest purpose, to God, and feeling weak in their testosterone, they'll follow anyone. And I don't even want you to follow me. If it makes sense and it aligns, and you do some research and you see what I'm saying is true, I would never lead you astray, then yes. But the point is, you have the power to control your sexual energy. You can learn to differentiate ejaculation from climax. You can do that. It just takes training, and it just takes understanding the how. And so that's what I teach in my work. And if you are curious about that, then click my link and you'll be taken to so many things. All right, so lastly, we're going to cover tantric retention, or as I like to call it, brahmacharya. Not I like to call it, what it's called. So what is the difference from semen retention to tantric retention, aka brahmacharya? There's a huge difference. The reason that there's a huge difference is a couple things. One, semen retention is the act of retaining the semen. But to become brahmacharya, or to be a Brahma and then charya, if you break down the word, the Sanskrit word, it's the master of your sexual energy, like quite literally is what it means. So you can either be a slave to your sexual energy or you can be a master of it. The decision is yours. For women, there's a whole nother protocol, and I'll spend a whole nother day going over that. So the difference with semen retention versus tantric retention or brahmacharya is the why. In the tantra, the why, and also the practice of what the end, the means to the end, really is about. So tantrics, for instance, my gurus and my senior teachers and my masters in India and Thailand, they don't ejaculate at all, like ever. They haven't for some of them 30, 40, 50 years. As my teachers are getting older, I'm getting older. And this is their practice. It's their faith. It's their religion. It's something that they stick with every day. It doesn't matter what happens. They get up and they do their tantric practice. They do their meditation, their hatha yoga, their laya yoga, their vipassana, their all the other things that a lot of people won't know. And a part of their practice is sex. They use sex to go beyond sex. They use sex to build the sexual energy so that it builds in the body. And then, remember I said perception, control, channeling, conserving the sexual energy. So they perceive the energy. That's why they practice all day with hatha yoga, with laya yoga, with meditations, with mantras, which are like repetitive scriptures, Bible verses, if you will. Yantras, which is our like sacred geometry, and looking and seeing beyond the shapes. And this practice is very masculine, and that's why I'm not great at a lot of these practices. I do different ones because it's just a very masculine practice. And then they do have sex. They have the tantric sex part. And they have it with a partner because you need both polarities. You need the divine masculine and then the divine feminine, and you need those to come together. And in that moment, that's when that polarity is moved and into oneness. And then when they are engaging in sexual activity, they're building that sexual energy and they're going up, and that's where you get the semen retention. They're coming back down and up. So a little bit of edging in there too, but it's all different, right? And then in the end, they are reaching climax, but it's a new kind of climax that most people can't understand because they've trained their body, they've trained their mind, their pelvic muscles, their pubic coccygeal muscles. They've trained all those muscles to be able to not have those pulsings that happen right before you guys know it. If you know your body, then you know right before a climax, you feel what? So I brought a prop. This is, I'm pretty sure I can have this on YouTube. I don't know if I can. I know I can't have it on Instagram. But anyways, they can blur it out. So these are my crystal wands. I sell these on my store. Your girlfriends or wives should not be using dildos. There's so many reasons. I'm not going to get into those today. That will be another one. But so basically right here, this muscles right before climax, you're going to feel, or climax, as you know, at ejaculation, you're going to feel these muscles start to pulse, right? You're going to start to like pulse, and then it shoots, and then you're done. And then you lose that life force, that energy. And it all starts right here. And this is considered the root chakra between the anus and the perineum. And the perineum sits under the testicles between the anus, right? So once they get to that point, then then it's over and they've lost the energy. And that is considered maybe what edging would be, where you finally do reach climax and then you experience ejaculation. And like this guy on here said, it was more intense, it's more pleasurable. But that is edging, and some of that is semen retention. But in tantric retention and brahmacharya, they're never experiencing that going beyond that 50 to 70%. They're never experiencing ejaculation. They're always taking that energy and pulling it back into the body and then moving that energy into whatever energy center they want for their life. Now that is a whole nother thing. And if you're interested in that work, you're curious about that work, then you got to click my link in the bio, and there's a myriad of different ways to get a hold of me. But So that is the difference. That's the first difference, is that they are not ever experiencing ejaculation. Not once, not on New Year's, not on holidays, not on their birthdays, never. Once they decide to become a brahmacharya and to do that, for the tantrics, it's 90 days and then it's 6 months, and then they get their badge of honor, like in Boy Scouts, you got, it's like Brownie, Boy Scouts and all this. That's what they get, and they become brahmacharya. They become brahmacharya, yes. And that's how they get that. But they don't get to go back. If they go back, then they have to start all over to get it again, if that makes sense. So my colleagues that I went to school with and my masters, they are not ejaculating at all. Like, that is not a part of their life. And the reasons, as I mentioned, are for life force, for vital energy, and for them, more importantly, for spiritual practice. And that's the difference between brahmacharya and just semen retention. Semen retention is a very challenging practice. To me, it's the ultimate flex for men to say that you have become a Brahma, that you practice brahmacharya, and that you become a Brahma, basically like a master, a god, because anyone can make $1 million. Like, anybody can do it. Does it take skill? Does it take psychology? Does it take money? Yeah, all those things. But it can happen. There's millionaires that are being born every day, but there's not people that retain their semen being born every day. That is not for the faint of heart, and it is the most disciplined practice I think there is, beyond martial arts, which I had not done in about 2.5 years, 3 years, but 2.5, I guess. But I used to train Muay Thai, and I know martial arts, it's a very intense practice. All of them are. It's more intense than martial arts. Semen retention, or tantric retention rather, is the most intense form of self-mastery I believe exists, because you're taking away a reactionary response from the testicles, and you're training that to pull that back into the body and to move it into a place, an energy center that you decide. And so brahmacharya means you do not ever ejaculate again, like never in your life as long as you're living. And the other difference is that you do this purpose for the spiritual union, of the divine union of yourself with God. That the purpose is always that the fruit of this practice, meaning this practice is very powerful because you can make money with it, you can create more, you can change your body, you can do a myriad of things with this practice, but that all of those, the fruits, the harvest that is from this practice of brahmacharya, tantric retention, goes to God. So it's an offering to God. Or to Shiva, or to the divine, or whatever it is that you believe or you subscribe to. And so it is a spiritual practice. It's not done, because what happens is there are men that can train themselves to last for a long time. We have to look at porn stars. We look at with athletes. I've been blessed to, have dated athletes, and they last longer. And so that is not brahmacharya. That's not tantric retention. That's just being very good at training those muscles. So the difference is when you're utilizing and moving the energy back in and up, you're offering it to the divine, and you are retaining from ever losing your ejaculation again for life. And that is the difference. And I think, most people are not going to do that. I understand that. It's not their life. Like, it's not in their cards to have that lifestyle. But just learning how to start to play with the mastery of your sexual energy, I believe, is the most important thing that a man can do in his life. Because if you think about it for a moment, if you control, answer this question. If you control your sexual energy, the very hardest thing to control. Most men are literally sunk by their sexual energy. They will do the craziest, they call it post-nut clarity, right? After they have done like some of the most vile, crazy, scandalous stuff they would never in a million years do, just to have sex with a woman. And then after it's done, they wake up and they're like, oh my God. Like, what did I just do? I lost my business, I lost my wife, I lost my kids. And so if you think that a man can learn to actually mastered that part of his life, his sexual urges, his sexual control of his semen, of his ejaculatory responses and reflexes. If a man can control that, what else can he do in his life? And I've seen it with my own eyes. The men who have taken this path of sexual mastery, of becoming a brahmachari, becoming brahmacharya, or becoming a brahmachari rather, practicing brahmacharya, they transform their life. Ooh, 1111. Cool. So I know that this practice is not for everyone, but I just wanted you to see that there's huge differences between no fapping, between edging, between semen retention, and between tantric retention, aka brahmacharya. The main things being that, number one, in tantric, in brahmacharya, you are not ejaculating anymore, ever. And you're moving the sexual energy and putting it in different places. And ultimately your goal is union, moving past the confounds of this dimension and finding oneness with the divine, with God himself. And so, oh, thank you. Thank you, Enrique. Yes, you know, the Mother's Day weeks, I was really just kind of getting, putting that content out there, honoring mothers, energy. And now I'm really going to hit some of these topics that I know everyone is very curious and also have been led astray on. So I think that is the main message I want to start sending out. So you've hung in here till the end, and I am going to let you guys go after I give you one tip. So I am giving you this last tip, okay? And I told you I would give you, I have to go back and read my notes. I covered so much. So imagine this live was like an hour. Imagine what 5 days with me is like at a retreat. We go so deep. If you can, and if it's in your budget, and even if it's not in your budget, and you really want to go deeper in this practice, and you want to travel, you want to go to Morocco, we'll be in Morocco in September. This is an hour. I go so deep, deeper than what I can even go on here, because it just doesn't translate to the masses. And this work, and then the exercises we do in the retreat, it will change your life. So if you're curious about going, we have an application process. We don't take anyone. Get a hold of me now, because we have a couple spaces left, and I'd love to get you in. All right. So let me read these last comments, and then I will finish with this last tip. Okay, so how do you spell it? Brahmacharya. Kendall Richardson asked, how do you spell it? And then Fat Nuts actually spelled it correct. So it's look in the comments and he spells it correctly, or head on over to my Patreon. You can't Google this information. This information, I spent a year of my life studying in Thailand and India on my gurus, under my gurus' tutelage. And the information that they teach isn't available in books unless you do their programs or you work with me and do my stuff. You can't find the stuff online. The stuff you're getting online is watered down at best, and it's not how it used to be taught. It was only taught from guru to student, and it was orally, and it was not even written down ever. So this is new. Okay, so how many months? So it goes 90 days and then 6 months. And then if you fail, then you have to start over. So far this live has been the best. Thank you. So true. Okay, Vape King. The only time I tried retention, I experienced my first wet dream at age 40 and a lot more stress. I won't do it again. I feel most clear after you know what, with a partner, which has been a while. Okay. Okay. So I wasn't fully understanding that, because I think just the wording and stuff, but this is a very complex thing. But thank you guys for all sharing and commenting. And then, yeah, for the last tip. So I want to give you just the basic tips to last longer. I think I will do a whole series on this too, because there's so many things that I think are the biggest misconceptions about lasting longer. One of the first things I would say on how to last longer, I know you guys aren't going to want to hear this, but you have to clean up your diet. if you think about the ejaculation and the circulatory system and all those things, you have to you just use common sense. I know there's Liver King, I know there's Dave Asprey and all these biohackers that are telling you to eat meat, eat meat, eat meat, don't be a soy boy and all those things. And I understand and I agree slightly. However, my practice, which I know is not for everyone, and even the men, my gurus and my tantric colleagues and former partners and stuff, they're all plant-based, so they don't eat meat. The reason why they don't eat meat, there's a few reasons, but I'll tell you in regards to you guys and what you're trying to accomplish. You have to think about the circulatory system being the most important aspect of a healthy ejaculation and the blood flow going into the lingam, right? This happens why? Blood flow, correct? If there's no blood flow, this stays like this at half mast, right? And and here's another way to prove, I'm such a yogi, guys, I'm sitting in some kind of yoga position. The other point to prove here is how many of you guys know a father, grandfather, someone who's had a heart attack, even maybe you guys yourself, but more interestingly enough is someone who's had a heart attack after they've tried a Viagra pill, right? Or a Cialis. And maybe a lot of times these pills were not prescribed. It was just extracurricular, like, oh, I want to go to Vegas. I want to stay up all night and have sex and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to pop a blue pill, a yellow pill. I know there's a ton of more out there today, right? And so that was the idea, from this to this, right? So basically and I work and consult with a couple of doctors here. One of them, Dr. Iman Bar, who I'm a huge fan of. And I've been on set with her doing PRP injections, which is basically injections into the lingam for length and girth, and to really help with even with lasting longer and having a better erection. So I'm going to have her on and we're going to talk about this. She's just so busy because she's a doctor, so it's hard to get her on, but I will have her on. And she's told me that the biggest thing, this is a huge, I'm holding this huge piece of information. Listen up, everyone. I'm very serious, and please share this with someone you know. Do not, I repeat, do not go and use one of these Cialis, Viagra drugs without going to be seen and cleared by your doctor. This is a sure way to croak and to get a heart attack, and just because if you're having some kind of blockage in the heart and you're not, you didn't get seen, you just went and got some pills from Mexico, or a friend gave them to you and they were prescribed to him, but not you, but you had the heart challenge and you take one and you get a vast circulatory response, then and you're done, and you stay like this permanently. This never goes back up. So this is a very serious issue, and I'm joking about it because it's not funny, but I'm trying to make light of a very intense topic. So the circulatory system is a huge part of this. And if the circulatory system is blocked, you cannot experience this. Do not go out and get experimental drugs to have better erections without being cleared by your doctor. This is a very serious, can be very detrimental. I'm actually coming up with my own supplement that is completely from tantric herbs that will be available for ED. And yeah, so stay tuned for that. So I put it out there, so now I really have to do it. So not eating meat, that is my tip on lasting longer, my number one for now, because I had so many in my mind and that one came, and so I wanted to discuss it. If you don't eat meat or cut back on it a lot just in this process of trying to heal your ED, you have to think about it. Look it up. Meat stays in the body the longest. It takes the longest to digest, the longest. So we're talking about steak, we're talking about chicken, we're talking about pork. Those are taking the longest to digest. Some of the meats stay in your body for up to a week to 10 days after you've eaten it. It just depends on your system and how healthy you are, and a myriad of different other things. And if you're taking things to break it down. So if you're having this meat in the body, right? It's just like weighing you down. And again, you need circulation to make this go. it's not going to take effect as fast, right? It's going to be slower. My colleagues, my swamis, some of my tantric partners, they didn't eat meat. What they did eat is bee pollen, and they sipped on that all day long, literally like water. Like I would just see one of my dearest friends who I went to training with. He was we were the only two Americans there. Everyone else was like Eastern European and Israeli and other countries, and then it was just him and I were the only Americans. Of course, we were super obnoxious and funny and cracking jokes. But he would just carry around bee pollen and literally all day. He's just like chewing bee pollen. But what they told me is that not having meat in their system, they can stay erect like all day. Their body is just like, it's like so pure and clean, and there's nothing like slowing down their circulatory system, their vascular system. It's just, everything's just moving because they're eating, you know, healthy grains and fruits and lots of superfoods that is just keeping their body light, and they're just able to get erection whenever they need. So meat, do your homework on it. I'm not saying for you to go without meat altogether, because I know most people will not do that. And I know my life is extreme, but I know that's not for everyone. But I do want you to, if you're having struggles with this, and obviously go to a doctor, get tested and get all your labs and everything, all that stuff. I'm not a doctor. I just play one on YouTube. But what I'm telling you is there's science for both sides, but just think about it logically. If you want to go from this to this, and you have meat that is stuck in your body, that's clogging your arteries, it's clogging your circulatory system from being able to get that blood flow, to get that erection, it's like common sense, guys. So lay off some of the meat and just test. Buddha says, you know, question everything, question me, do the homework, be a guinea pig and see what happens. All right, I'm getting some crazy. Okay, so eggs and chicken. All right, chicken is taking, so fish is 1 to 2 days. Chicken is like 3 to 5. And then beef is 5 to 7. I'm going off memory. And pork is the longest. It's like 7 to 10. Okay. And this information is really hard to find on purpose, but trust me, or just be a guinea pig on your body. What's going to happen if you just give up meat for 90 days? Just to see what happens. And if it doesn't work for you, then let's see. And everybody's different. Eggs, I can't tell a lie. I cannot tell a lie. I incorporated eggs back into my body. For me, they are very useful. I just make sure that they are pasture raised, organic, clean, no grains, no weird shit, just clean. Spend money on your food. People spend the least on their food. I promise you I spend the most on my food. My food bills are freaking through the roof. I have a 9-year-old that's over 5 feet. And then I will not eat most things that most people have in their fridge or their cabinets, I promise you. So I do eggs. It's better for me when I'm on my cycle, as I'm on right now. I'm about to get off. I do not eat eggs because, or any dairy at all, which I normally only eat ghee if I'm cooking with it. I just stay away from all of that. That's a whole nother topic. What are we talking about? You'll figure it out when you watch the live, my dear. A woman. Wait. I'm so happy. Alicia, thank you so much. I only ever have men on here. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. Okay, I get so excited. Alicia, would you recommend guys to gain sexual experience, high body counts, or stay conservative? Great question. I'm going to screenshot that because when this goes live, those questions won't be on there. And that annoys the crap out of me why that happens, because I'm going to do a whole segment on that. But a short answer is, okay, I don't subscribe to the you need 50 bodies. And first of all, they make it sound like we're talking about like this whole red pill nonsense. Is just like, it makes me so annoyed. Like bodies, like we're talking about like bodies in the morgue or something. Why are we saying bodies? Like, it's so annoying. Okay, so I don't believe that you need 50 women to be considered a high value man. No, I would take a man who's had 1 or 2 partners, who has studied and trained like this. To me, I'm going to tell you what the ultimate flex is. I have, despite what people say about single moms and we're done and we have no, screw all them. Really, it's so stupid. It depends on each person, okay? As a single mother to a 9-year-old, even with what I do, I get offers all day from men who have money and who are in that top 1%. And then I get all kinds of offers. I'm not just saying I only get that. I would rather take a man, and you can quote me on this, who has practiced semen retention, who has flirted with the idea of being a master of a sexual energy. And those are the men that I speak with and that I entertain, because I have the utmost respect for a man who has a connection to God or a higher power, and who has a connection to his purpose, and who has the capability to control the most powerful force on the universe, his sexual energy. And so to me, if he has that, he can get to millions. But a guy with millions, I guarantee you, cannot get to sexual mastery, to brahmacharya. A lot of times they won't do it, even because they think it's like, I have money, I don't need anything else. But how much money more could they have? Could they be like a Bezos or someone like that? So to me, I don't judge anyone for having had sex. I think today in the society we live in, it's unrealistic to be with a man or woman who's never had sex. It just doesn't happen. And if they do, I personally think most of those people are weird. And I know from being brought up in a faith-based community that a lot of these people have the deviance of the sexual deviance that these people have are just atrocious, because they're only taught shame and dogma and etc. So I prefer to have someone who's like middle of the road, it's like me. You won't look at me and think I'm conservative because I show a little cleavage, but I think more conservatively in how I raise my son in the regards to, I'm not a leftist, I'm not a liberal, but I'm open-minded to understanding that there's so much more out there than what has been taught on the conservative agenda, that what we put in our body matters, who we put in our body matters, things like this. So I'd be more inclined to go with someone who has less money in the bank, but has a foundation of some more conservative values, but is still a little bit open-minded. And that's why, to be honest, I've only dated 2 guys since serious relationships since my son was born. And, and now I don't talk about like who I'm dating, because that was a really hard time, and a big mistake that I made personally in my business was putting my previous partner out there, and it was just too much. He was too young and he did not want to be in the spotlight. So I learned a lot, but I hope that answered your question. If a guy's only been with a couple women, who cares? Date the guy, not the stats. You have to date the person. I think that there's many single moms who, if I was a man, I would marry over some girl in her 20s who's just clueless and lost and experimenting and doesn't know how to be nurturing or feminine any day. Give me someone who I know can commit and has children and would be open to having more. All right. I ate meat today, and okay, I'm not reading that. If you send me stupid questions, I'm just not going to read it. It's not about lasting. It's about intensity over time. That's great. Yeah. Also drank a lot of beer. Okay, good for you. Save yourself a couple months, then exactly. I hate that word. That's just, I don't know if there's another word. I wish I could. What you think we're talking about here, bro? Doesn't care metabolism, not raw milk and yogurt. Guys, I'm reading comments. I love pork. Good for you. Sorry, milk. Mostly eat rice and veggies. Cool. You're great. Thanks for your time. I'm okay. I rather me a brahmachari than a millionaire. Well, the likelihood of you becoming a millionaire after you reach brahmacharya is higher, I would say. This message is helpful for review, and then I have to let you go. My boyfriend asked me for a threesome, and I have a friend that is interested. Should I accept to please his ego? Oof. You know what, Alicia? You asked some good questions. I should have you come on live with me and just have you ask me questions. These are great. All right. I'm going to answer this question, and then I have to pee because I've been downing water all day. So I'm going to have to go after this, but I love having a woman on here, and I will answer one more question for her. Okay. So for me, this is a no. If you guys were married or in a committed monogamous relationship that is benefiting you, then I would consider it, but there would be ground rules. because you can't just bring another woman into your bed and expect it to go good. Like, there has to be a very detailed rule book on how these types of practices are going to go down. And again, I wouldn't do it if I wasn't married, or if I wasn't in a serious, committed, monogamous relationship that the benefits tipped in your favor, meaning he's providing for you. You're in a car that he's paying for. You're in a house that he's paying for. He's paying for your kid's school. He's doing something to show that he's invested in the relationship, and that this is just another side of his sexual archetype. So I talk about sexual archetypes. That's a huge reason why most relationships are failing, because you're not exploring the right archetypes. And so you're only having surface sex, and you're never really actually satisfying or satiating those desires that are in the man and the woman. And so it's like a bad bad mix. And then after that, the sex is just done and over, and then it's over, right? Sexual polarity weakens faster than anything on the planet. It's also magnetized. It can be remagnetized, but oftentimes it's too late. So I would say if that's a part of his sexual archetype where he really has that kind of fiery warrior essence, and he wants to explore, and this is a part of him. Listen, you guys know how I am about cheating and that whole stance. I do not think cheating is a reason to get a divorce. I think that there's so many other things that are more of a deal breaker. Cheating is just a sign that there's an unmet need, and it could be resolved if two people are willing to do the work. So again, I know I lost a lot of followers or viewers on that. That was hilarious. So Alicia, to close, and then I would love to have you back on because you have great questions, and these are great coming from a woman, since my audience is almost always predominantly male. I would say pass with the boyfriend unless he's been asking for a while. He takes care of all my bills and needs and really want to please him. Oh, okay. Thanks. Okay. Then yeah, but I would say you have to have a manual, a guide, a rule book of what is okay and what is not, in regards to that's another really great question. I think I'm going to screenshot this, and I'm going to do how to have a threesome. I really love this because you've given me so many content ideas. And so I'm going to just turn these into lives. So how to have a threesome with your man. Oh my God. I'm just so happy that came out of my mouth. So you got to have very strict rules and guidelines at this, and only you can make them. But a few things I would say is no contact between them and her, has to go through you. And no, in regards to choosing women, again, I don't want to get into too much of this because this will be another whole live, but I would say have some basic ground rules that are abided by, and that if this is something that he wants to participate in, this is not an everyday thing. This is you don't always go out for a 5-star meal. You might do this on anniversary, on a Christmas or a birthday. Treat this the same way. There's got to be ground rules. And if not, there has to be a clear path on what's going to happen if this is broken. So yeah. Okay. And great advice, more live streams in the future. I do them twice a week. Like I said, it was Mother's Day and I was in the ER for some weird allergy that I don't know what's going on. So twice a week. And if I start getting more views and things, I'll do it every day. I'm just doing twice a week for now. What about inviting another man? Oh my gosh. All right. That's going to be another one. With that, y'all, I want to encourage you to just use yourself and practice on you. Like everyone, I can tell you anything, but until you know, you don't know. Use your body, question everything, make yourself a guinea pig and do it on you and see what happens. And I want to encourage every one of you to live with lasting, passionate, intimate relationships. It is possible. You can do it. I'll see you on the next one. Lots of love. Thank you so much for your support. Please like this and leave a comment even when it goes live. Bye, y'all.